All right, so the final submission, I'm just want to be crystal clear because it's our first proving ground. You do not need inspiration, but you need all three rubric requirements. Rubric requirement 2 is your creature placed in a landscape or a creature placed in a landscape, as long as you place that creature in there. And then you try to adjust the angle of the anatomy of the creature. We use puppet warp for that. We use regular distort and warp, regular layer compositing stuff, and that you match the lighting. We use non-destruct overlay layers with dodging and burning, and just levels adjustments to put the shadows in to adjust the lighting. And then I added some extra texture with the clouds and the mist, and then did some overall color corrections. All of that helps it to sink in. So that's rubric requirement 2. Once you know what your final composition is, remember your creature needs to take up around 25% or more of the composition. So if you cut it into third lines, it should be in at least 3 of the 9 boxes, right? It can be more, but it can't be less than 3. And then you're going to look at your image size. This is it in preview. And you're going to identify what those pixels are good for. This is making sense of the data. And this tells me that the width is 16 inches, the height is 11.5 inches. So I write that down. But what is the resolution? Within those inches, how many pixels are they fitting? That's fitting 300. And you want your resolution to either be 300 or 72. Whichever one gives you the measurement that's closest to being over 8 by 10. Why do I say closest to being over? Because 76 inches by 58 inches at 72 pixels per inch is not a good understanding of it, right? At that huge size, you want to make it 300 pixels per inch, and then it will be smaller, but it will still be larger than 8 by 10. That makes sense. Okay. So then you need to identify what that is by saying whether it's good for print or good for screen. If it's over 8 by 10 at 300 pixels per inch, it's good for print. If it's under 8 by 10 by 300 pixels per inch, then you have to do it as screen, but then you have to convert your pixels to 72 pixels per inch and tell me the dimension at that resolution. Okay, the third requirement, this is the fun one, where you just write about how your creature is connected to the environment, trying to make sense of the different things you chose, right? So if I chose kind of misty, water-rich, kind of low-light environment for my landscape, I want to explain how my creature lives in that environment. The big eyes, what it drinks. Why does it have these huge claws if it's eating small things? Well, that's for protection, because you see this big skull in the foreground here, so it makes it look like there are big predators. That kind of thing. All right, and then that will do it. You'll get full marks on all 3 criteria, and you'll be done with your proving ground, and you'll be ready for your creative problem-solving badge at the end of the semester. All right, that's the last video for this. So now that we have posted everything in the demo for our proving ground, what benefit does this have to our work besides just getting that assignment done? That gave us an opportunity to improve both assignment 1 and assignment 2. So why do we save the PSDs always? Well, if I just turn off the combined layers, I can see that I have all these layers right here that are my creature. And if I just turn off that creature layer, that's a pretty believable landscape. And that might be better than the assignment 1 that I turned in the first weeks. Maybe I downplay some of the dodging and burning that I did for the shadows of the creature, right? But this has texture overlays in it. Let's compare it to the JPEG I posted for assignment 1. Especially those of you who are just trying to get the best portfolio by the end of the semester possible. Like, this is what I turned in for assignment 1. What does this one have that that one doesn't have? It just has this sense of kind of mist and a little bit more depth. right? Everything's very sharp here because we hadn't learned about texture overlays yet. And this feels a little disconnected from this, and this disconnected from that. So this, just in very subtle ways, just because we were adjusting and dodging and burning the background to help with our creature, actually improved our landscape as well. So what I might do is save this with a different name. So save a copy, and I would call this Karl Assignment 1 Resubmission, because I never want you to erase your original. And I'm going to save it to the desktop, Command D, as a JPEG. I'm not hurting anything. I'm just outputting another landscape that I think might be better than the one I submitted. And it's already at a good resolution. Okay, now I can turn on the creature, but turn off everything else. And my creature had a big slash cut out of it, but I have that without. So this might not be worth doing because those legs will be different. Yeah, sure enough. But let's compare this, because it might be different for you, where you didn't have to cut away something, to your assignment number 2 submission. This was my PNG, right? Very bright. And actually, even if I had the legs, I would say this is not as strong a submission as this one. Because this shows when you do creature design or when you do landscape design, you want it to be versatile, right? So this creature design is made to work on like a sunny beach or made to work in a dark shadow. But sometimes thinking it through and having to dodge and burn it and make it match a setting and pose it into a setting improves it. In this case, it doesn't. It took too much contrast away from it to make it match its environment. But if I felt like this was better, I would save that as a as an assignment 2 resubmission as a PNG, and I could resubmit that. So, how does resubmitting work? And I put this in your comments on assignment 1. If I wanted to show an improvement, I'm going to take that resubmission, put it into assignment 1. So I keep it safe. I'm going to mark it as orange, but it has resubmission in its name. And I saw the hand, I'll be right there. And then I go to that assignment in Canvas. So I go to Home, I go to Assignments, the shortcut to where you post, just like you guys are posting your proving grounds right now, which are due today. And I find my original post, and it'll be all the way at the end. And I've already posted an improvement, right? Because I decided I wanted to scoop out that rock and make it more like teeth. But now I'm going to submit another improvement, because maybe the first improvement didn't get me the grade I want, or I just realized I can still make it better. So I'm going to post this as a resubmission. So always label your resubmissions. And I think this will be the last one I do. And this would also be maybe the one that I donate to Photopea. Not Photopea, Pixabay, because I tend to donate my fantasy landscapes to Pixabay. And then they get used for like book covers and things. It's fun. And there's nothing in here that's copyrightable by Mattel or He-Man, right? It's just inspired by that. And all the photos I used were from Creative Commons open sources anyway. So this is kind of it. I had my sketch. I had my first attempt. I got comments on my first attempt. It kind of showed me where I could improve it. I tried to utilize those and resubmit. but I realized that wasn't enough of an improvement to really change the score. And so this one really kind of makes use of those texture overlays, especially this transition from foreground to middle ground to background is now a lot more effective. Make sense? All right. Now, you're not quite done if you're resubmitting. The next thing you need to do is go to your inbox and you need to compose to me. So you find your course and then you find the teacher. And then you say resubmitted assignment 1. Please rescore, you kind and generous man. And then you send it. And when I see that message, I know to look for it and look for a change to your submission. There's no way for me to know otherwise. And then once I've looked at it and rescored it, or decided not to rescore it, right? But I'll let you know by responding to your message. So that's how we resubmit for a higher score. Okay.